Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the City Club of Chicago.
Smart people may disagree about what makes a great city, but part of what makes Chicago great is that we don't have to agree. To run a city like ours, a lot of issues come up. The City Club of Chicago is a place to debate those issues and hear from the men and women who shape the policies, lead the industries, and tell the stories that define our city. For the free and open exchange of ideas, the City Club of Chicago.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Phil Ponce. On this Wednesday, February 4th, the first television forum among candidates running for mayor of Chicago. That's the full hour next on Chicago Tonight. A looming $550 million pension payment, still too many troubled schools, concerns about crime and violence, questions about red light cameras. There are plenty of issues on the table in the race for mayor of Chicago. To avoid an April runoff election, the top vote getter must receive 50% plus one vote on Election Day, Tuesday, February 24th. Tonight is the first television joint appearance among the leading candidates for mayor. Also here in our studio are members and guests of the City Club of Chicago. The City Club is helping to underwrite tonight's forum. We are also live streaming this program on our website, WTTW.com. And our political reporter, Per Schutz, is live tweeting at WTTW using hashtag Chicago Tonight. Now joining us in the order they appear on the ballot are Rahm Emanuel, who currently is the mayor of Chicago, businessman Willie Wilson, second Alderman Bob Fioretti, and Jesús Chuy García, a member of the Cook County Board of Commissioners. A quick note before we begin. As with all our candidate forums, answers won't be timed and candidates won't necessarily get the same questions. We do ask candidates to be brief and direct, and if anyone starts making a campaign speech, I will cut them off. And, gentlemen, we have questions that, to our knowledge, nobody outside our staff has seen. So let's get started. Mayor, let me begin with you. Today, Governor Rauner made it clear that he wants to limit the power of public employee unions. Should public employees have the right to bargain on wages and benefits?
Yes. And what I'm proud about in our administration is we basically have worked through the different unions, a series of contracts for the first time also. Those negotiations, they did not go to arbitration. We worked out a win-win situation. That's also true with public employees throughout the city of Chicago, Park District, our schools, because it's done in a respectful way. So I fundamentally believe in that right, but I also fundamentally believe that you have to make reforms and changes so that our taxpayers and the residents of the city of Chicago win. And in each of those agreements we've actually accomplished something that's a win, as it has been for firefighters, as it has been for police officers.
You've made a point of that on several occasions. So basically what you're saying is you're not on board necessarily with the governor's stated goal to diminish the power and the scope of things over which public employee unions can negotiate.
There are places I would say that I've agreed with him as it relates to on the minimum wage. I fought and signed in a new minimum wage. I don't agree with the time or the amount that he said, but he's now for it, so we should push for an increase in the minimum wage. Where I disagree is like on the issues of right to work. I don't think we should have economically against Kentucky and Indiana. I think we should have policies that strengthen the middle class, not undercut them. That's why we want people building our transportation system, our roads. And so in places will work, like increasing the minimum wage. Other places where it's undercutting middle class lives, I don't support that.
Chuy Garcia, what have you done specifically on the county board that recommends you to voters in a citywide race? What specific acts of leadership can you point to?
Over the past 4 years, I must say I'm very proud to have been President Tony Preckwinkle's floor leader, where we inherited a deficit that was approximately $500 million. We were able to present 4 balanced budgets, no tax increase. On the contrary, we rolled back a very unpopular sales tax that made us a leader, one of the highest in the nation. We have streamlined the government. We have given it purpose. We have made it transparent. We have ethical standards there.
One could argue that those are all Tony Preckwinkle's accomplishments. In terms of legislation, is there anything you can point to saying that one's mine?
Yes, I I sponsored legislation that regulated guns in the city of Chicago that sought to get them off the streets. It called for ensuring that gun owners have trigger locks protecting minors in their homes. It also called for the lost or stolen guns to be have to be reported to the Chicago Police Department. Both of them are laws. And also in Cook County, we were the first in the nation to not cooperate with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Bureau so as to uphold the Constitution. That was my ordinance sponsored. It was the first in the nation. Over 220 states, counties, and cities followed our examples. We protected the rights of immigrants and upheld the Constitution in Cook County. Saved a lot of money in the making, too.
Thank you very much. Willie Wilson, in this town, the perception is that you have to be tough, almost intimidating, to get anything done. Otherwise, you'll get eaten alive. How do we know you won't get eaten alive?
Well, you don't. You know, base it. But this I can tell you this much.
You might get eaten alive?
We're going to try not to, okay? But I can say this much, is that I'm not a politician, you know. I'm a business person, know nothing about politics, all right? I'm not bought. I put my own money into this campaign. I've not accepted any major corporation dollars or union dollars because I don't want anybody telling me what to do but the citizen. If I'm gonna get elected, it's gonna be from the citizen. It's not gonna be from somebody done bought me. I come to the table just like I am. I'm not really looking to get a salary from the city.
You're going to take a salary, but you say you're going to donate it.
I'm going to donate it to the churches and other organizations.
So you are taking a salary?
Okay. I'm going to take a salary. I'm going to donate every penny of it to the churches and other organizations in the city. Now, let me say this, too, is that once you take money from unions and major corporations, you owe it to them first for what they want.
We'll follow up with that in just a second. Bob Fioretti, you've said you were misled about the parking meter deal that you voted for. Who specifically misled you?
I sat on the day before Thanksgiving for over 4.5 hours with the comptroller for the city.
Who was that at the time?
Paul. I can't remember, all of a sudden I can't remember his last name. And we went through questions and we went through answers. And among them was, what was the fair market value of this transaction? At that time, they had 3 potential bidders, and for some reason, I should have realized when they were talking about it, they said they were all within the same, even though the bid was not open. And then I asked if we can raise meter rates. Can we lower meter rates? The answer was yes. Can we put in parking meters? The answer was yes. Can we take them out? Yes. Well, all that turned out to be not true.
So do you think the comptroller at the time was overtly lying to you?
Either that or he didn't know what he was doing at the time.
So did you feel duped as a result of it?
I think many of us felt that we all had buyer's remorse over it, just like the citizens have who they voted for 4 years ago. And I say this because under the new parking meter ban, I think we could have made a lot of changes. There would have been. But this new one that this administration has done makes it an ironclad and unbreakable contract. I think the other one was breakable. We could have done that if we had leadership.
All right, let's get the mayor on this. Did you screw up on the redo of the parking meter deal?
Well, first of all, no, I took a big lemon and tried to make a little lemonade out of it. That deal, Bob voted for it, and we're all stuck with it. So I told the firm on day one, I'm not paying these bills. And I said I refused to pay them until they were just mounting and mounting on the desk. We closed a loophole that was costing the taxpayers $1 billion, gave people free Sundays back in the neighborhood, and now you have an app where you can pay by cell so you don't have to get out in the snow and the slush to pay your meter. I will say
does it mean more money? Does that deal mean Chicago is actually getting more money?
What it means was we were stuck with a rotten deal that was not just for a temporary time. What Bob didn't bring up was it was a 75-year deal. And so we were stuck with something. I said I was going to renegotiate it. I said it actually at this forum 4 years ago throughout the campaign. We did renegotiate it. It was a contract that was a bad deal. It was bad then. It's still bad. But we try to make a little lemonade out of a big lemon.
Bob Fioretti, let's move on to another topic, and that has to do with city finances. No one believes that the city of Chicago can solve its revenue problem without at least putting property taxes on the table. Why not just say it and be real?
Because you know what? There are other ways. We can go through a complete audit of the budget and find out what we can and where we can find money. Same with the TIFs. I propose a financial transaction tax and a commuter tax. I think we need to look
Independent analysts have looked at that and they said that's not going to raise anywhere near what it's cost.
$357 million out of a commuter tax going into a pension obligation bond. Look, our pensions
Those
are
estimates,
guaranteed.
by the way, have not been confirmed independently.
Well, I think if you look at the numbers, and 600,000 workers here, $30 billion that is made by those that live outside of the city and elsewhere, the numbers come, and look at the Department of Labor statistics for the state of Illinois. Those numbers are accurate. Now, when you couple it with a pension obligation bond, our pension obligations, everybody's talking about let's cut the obligations, let's cut the retirement benefits. The first responders, we have to live with our pensions. People just don't want to do that for whatever reason. They not only are they the ones who we all depend on, whether you're a visitor and everything.
No one disputes that. The question is, how are you going to realistically fix the pension? $550 million due later this year, and the proposals you're suggesting, some folks just don't add up. Let me move on to Chuy Garcia. Mr. Garcia, in Sunday's Sun-Times, Mark Brown said that you could not have been more vague about how you would deal with the city's pension debt. You oppose reducing pensions, and no one seriously believes there's enough money to do it in TIFs or just by efficiencies. How would you do it? Be specific.
It took a long time to get here. The solution isn't going to happen overnight. What I have proposed is waiting for the Supreme Court to rule, the legislature to act. If they provide relief, we'll know what the accurate debt will be at that point in time. I have proposed taking a portion of the tax increment financing fund that the mayor currently controls and making a good faith down payment on it, acknowledging that we have the debt, then sitting down with the affected union representatives who are affected by this and negotiating a restructuring of that debt, always with an eye toward making it solvent. The entire payment is not due now. We can work that out. What we need here is transparency and a willingness to sit with all the stakeholders to arrive at solutions. There's no panacea in this.
That presupposes there's money in the TIF.
There is. I believe that there is.
Well, let's ask the mayor. It's been estimated that you control as much as $1.5 billion in uncommitted TIF funds. Is that accurate?
No. The fact is, of the 1.5 billion is committed to public schools, public transportation, streetscape, parks, and libraries.
So how much is uncommitted that you personally control?
No, I don't. First of all, we don't personally control. We work with aldermen and the businesses in the area. And give you an example is Whole Foods is coming to Englewood. We're doing about $10 million of improvements in roads in the area.
Okay, but how much money is uncommitted?
I think there's about 150 to 200 million. The 1.5 is already committed. No, but that's not. Here's the thing. Rather than wait, I went in office, changed the status quo, 4 budgets in a row that are all balanced without a property sales or gas tax increase, and 4 years in a row increasing investments in our children. I've negotiated 3 pension agreements that saved 61,000 workers their pension and did 2/3 of it through reforms and efficiency without asking for property taxpayers any increase in their property tax. There is a roadmap based on the record. And the fact is, I do believe in this situation that there's these two, both Bob and Chuy, have offered pension reform without any reform and pension revenue without any revenue, and that's not the right road.
Bob Fioretti, how about that? Do you take the mayor's word that there's $150 million to $200 million in uncommitted TIF funds?
But no, I don't believe that that's the number. I think it is a lot higher. And of course, what we heard were there are a lot of parks and schools. And yes, I think TIFs need to be that for the infrastructure. But at the same time, if there's 150, let's say there's 100 million, all the city gets is 20 million out of that. So we have to realize, because then if we surplus it or we close a TIF, it goes to the other governmental entities. The city of Chicago only gets 20% of that. So
that being the case, if that's the case, Chuy Garcia, how do you make that down payment towards the pensions that you're talking about if it really isn't that much?
When I'm mayor, I will have control over that tax increment financing slush fund. However, I will be transparent about it so that people don't have to constantly file freedom of information requests to find out what's there, to guess at what has been committed and what is left. But the other thing we need to do is to close some of the TIF districts that have already accomplished the projects that they were supposed to accomplish, and stop subsidizing friends of the mayor with incentives that aren't needed. They simply get them because they're friends of the mayor, because they contribute to the kitty, as we read about.
Let me get Willie Wilson
in the Tribune
and all
series.
this. Your position on whether or not property taxes will, in some way, have to be on the table in order to get, in order for Chicago to get the revenue it needs.
I'm not for raising taxes on anybody. You can't raise the tax on the back of the poor, you know. But when you raise these taxes, you got business leaving out of the city, all right? If you cannot pay your light bill or your gas bill, all right, how are you going to continue to raise taxes on people? I will lower taxes, all right? Let's take gasoline tax, for example. If you lower...
You would lower taxes, and how would you pay the city?
Let me just say it.
$330 million budget deficit, $550 million payment to pensions?
I think everybody up here, I'm the only person here in business, all right? So I have a record of success in business, all right? I don't have a record in success as a politician, all right? So I would do this here, a couple things I would do. Open up, you got to bring in new business. You can't keep raising taxes on people. When you raise taxes, business go out of town, all right? Open Mag Field up, $300 million, right there, okay? Contracts and jobs. Put a own casino in Chicago, all right? Open that up, let it be owned by the citizen. You don't build more hotels, because more people coming into the casino are going to stay in hotels, all right? You look at now Joliet, Indiana, those people are going out there, who's supporting those? The people from Chicago supporting those casinos, all right?
All right, well, let's...
That's how you would start on it, all right?
Mayor, let me get back to you on the issue of property taxes, because you, at the Sun-Times, you left open the door to the possibility of increasing property taxes, not for the operating budget, but to deal with pensions. What do you say to people who are alarmed at the prospect of a property tax for any reason?
Well, first of all, 4 years in a row, I've introduced every budget that's been balanced without a property sales or gas tax increase.
And you say you'll continue to do that with regards to the operating budget
4 years in a row. 4
year.
years in a row, I put money back into the rainy day fund. I eliminated the per employee head tax. I didn't cut it. I eliminated it. And 4 years in a row, we increased investments in our children. In addition to that, I took 50% of our pension challenge, made sure 61,000 workers get their retirement check, because that's what they count on and they contribute to, and made sure it was done without a property tax. I'm the only person that's actually secured people's pension without a property tax. I haven't talked about it. I'm not waiting for the Supreme Court. We've actually done it year in and year out, and 2/3 of the savings came from reforms and efficiency by working across the table.
And yet you did the possibility of a property tax increase to help deal with the pensions, and some people are terrified at that prospect. Chuy García, your take on that.
For 4 years, the mayor has, in fact, driven our finances deeper into the hole when he promised to fix them when he ran for mayor 4 years ago. What has he done? He's borrowed $1.9 billion and indebted us until the year 2044. This is huge.
Let me stop you. Is that true?
This is huge.
How do you see that those bonds, that obligation?
Right, here's exactly what happened. When I came to office, our annual deficit was $600 million. We cut it in half in 4 years. And in fact, Lawrence Massal from the Civic Federation each year has said that the budget is bold and continues to restructure our finances. And 3 years, I've done 3 pension agreements working together, solving the pension, securing it for people without a property tax increase. And we've done it by doing the hard things of rolling up our sleeves, finding reforms and efficiency, and my record is a roadmap.
So will that be the argument that you bring to the citizens? Should you have to increase properity taxes to pay for pensions? Look at my record. I did all I could. I held everything back, but now we have no choice.
What I'm going to say is, and I'm going to continue to work with my partners in labor and exactly secure their pensions by doing reforms and efficiencies without any property taxes.
Bob Fioretti, in terms of paying bills, your law firm has gotten a lot of publicity for not having paid some of its bills. If your law firm can't pay its bills, how can you pay the city's bills?
Well, actually, when we were victims of the recession just like everyone else. I got
That means
sick.
you were low on money.
No, I got sick. We had a couple clients that owed a lot of money that went into bankruptcy. But we paid all of our bills. That's not true. Everything has been settled. Everything has been paid. I don't know where that comes from, except for those that want to just attack in terms of what happened. Everybody knows that I had a serious bout with cancer. I wasn't even there. And I lost 50 pounds. I put 40 of them back on. I went to every city council meeting. and I tried to do what we could. I couldn't go out and talk to clients. I did everything. I believe in paying bills. That's number one, and I always do and always will.
Mayor, if red light cameras are about safety, why are your cars running them?
Yeah, well, as you know, I've even though I'm not driving, I've paid the bills. That is about safety. It's about making sure you reduce the T crashes that are the most dangerous. And when I got here, the firm that was operating it was corrupt. I threw them out, brought somebody else in, eliminated 16 locations that they operate in, made sure that in fact there was no new expansion of the efforts, and made sure that one other thing. I want the technology to reduce traffic accidents so our police officers are freed up to fight crime, gangs, and guns. I don't want them doing traffic reports when they can be doing the hard work of fighting crime on the streets of the city of Chicago.
The fact that you paid them, though, underscores the fact that you paid the bills out of your own pocket, underscores the fact that the city makes money off of them. Why not just say, you know what, red light cameras have a safety component and a revenue component. If you don't break the law, you won't have to deal with a revenue component. Why not just say
Phil,
it's about revenue too?
No, because it's also about the integrity of safety. Because it does reduce side crashes and most accidents. All the data shows that. But it also makes sure that what we do and is making sure that our officers are freed up not to actually be writing traffic accidents, but to fighting crime on the streets of the city of Chicago.
If it's about safety, why are your cars running them?
Well, first of all, because the police officers are driving them. I pay them to make sure the systems has an integrity to them, Phil. But to note, in fact, is they keep a safety there. I've actually, threw the corrupt operator out, brought transparency to the system, made sure our officers are freed up to do their job, shut down in 16 locations. There are no longer red lights there. The only person that's actually shut them down.
By the way, why the need for a chase car, Mayor?
You should ask the security people about that. I'm here to make sure there's security for the people of the city of Chicago, not to check about that car.
Let me come out there.
Willie Wilson.
Yeah. Why is red light camera? I would shut them down. Red light camera in just about particular most of the neighborhood, but it ain't downtown Chicago. The red light camera, right? If you're gonna be in the west side, the south side, whatever side, why isn't it downtown Chicago? Yeah, I would shut those red light cameras down. It's wrong to be on the back of certain citizens in Chicago and not on all citizens, all right? So
And yet one does have a choice about the red lights. I mean, you don't have to run them.
He ran him. Let's face it, all right? He should be same thing by the law. You know, if he should pay double for them, all right? All right?
I'm probably the only person that's not driving and paying them.
Phil, it's quite clear that the arguments aren't supported by fact. The Texas University analysis said that there's safety involved in about 14% of instances where cameras are installed. That means that the rest have to go.
I thought it was closer to half.
No, they said about 14%. They caused 22% increase in rear bumper. But here you have another example of tremendous borrowing and indebtedness by this administration, almost $2 billion, raising taxes in the form of fees, fines, and penalties, and then
is that better than a property tax increase?
And then helping his cronies with all of the favors that the Tribune series just reported on this past week. Those are the priorities of this administration, balancing the budget through regressive fines, fees, and penalties on little guys in the city of Chicago. The neighborhoods are the ones that are paying for all of this.
While you have the floor, Chuy García, you support legalizing recreational marijuana and taxing it to raise revenue. Others, is that a good?
I did not say that. I said that we should study the Colorado experience to see how it goes in terms of crime, in terms of the health impact that it has.
But you specifically
and that
said
we
revenue.
said that the revenue is also one interesting source that we ought not discount.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Other candidates, is that good public policy?
First of all,
Bob
both
Fioretti.
of them, on the red light cameras, I have introduced an ordinance to abolish the red light cameras. It is fines, fees, and forfeiture. It is not about safety. And the reason the mayor cannot say that it's revenue, even though it's revenue driven, is because it then evaporates the argument that that's been pushed in through the state legislature on why we have these cameras and what we can do about it. And as has been said over and over, this is about rear-end collisions increasing. Now, We should have been improving these intersections long ago and removing the cameras. If it was about safety and that's what everybody's concerned and that's what we hear out of this administration, it should have been done. It would have been over and done with. Red light cameras have to go.
Gentlemen, let's go through a round of...
Phil, hold on. No, because actually, I fundamentally oppose legalizing marijuana as a revenue source. You want to increase revenue? Grow jobs. Don't grow pot. I think it's the wrong strategy. Let me say one other thing, though. Chuy, right before the county voted on a red light operation, you took $1,500 the night before, and then you were the swing vote the next day. And Bob, 5 years ago, you actually voted to expand the red light program. I'm the only one that's actually shut down lights in the city of Chicago.
Chuy García, a quick response to that?
If I could. First of all,
Did you take money? 15? Was there a vote the next day?
I took a $1,500 contribution from a 30-year friend who does no business with the city, and you know that, so you're lying about that. And we weren't approving a red light camera. We were responding to a request from a suburb that wanted to install a red light camera. The county hasn't installed any red light cameras. That's the truth. You're distorting and you're lying, and you know it. And that's the reverse Robin Hood right there. Robbing from the poor to give to the rich.
Well, you know, I think
Hold on, Mayor, do you want to respond to that?
Look, the record speaks for itself. I'm clear that we've actually shut them down in 16 locations, never expanded them, and made sure that our officers are freed up to fight guns and gangs rather than writing traffic.
Willie Wilson.
Listen, I'm the only one that haven't taken any money from nobody. Right? Nobody. All right, nobody. All right? All right? When you take money from corporation and union, you're going to owe them. Okay? But, listen, those particular union must have equal opportunity for job and contract to all citizens, which do not have, okay? Those particular union that supported the mayor here, those particular corporation that supported the mayor, $30 million, he must pay them back first, okay? I pledge to you, I wouldn't take any money from anybody before I would sell the city out itself.
Since that subject is on the table, Mr. Mayor, the Tribune reported that about half of your top 100 donors have received City Hall benefits ranging from contracts and permits to appointments and personal endorsements. You've made some steps regarding ethics reform, but doesn't this at the very least give the appearance of pay to play?
Phil, when I was a congressman, Senator Barack Obama and I introduced the most sweeping lobbying and ethics reform legislation, and passed it. The first thing I did as mayor, signed 6 ordinances changing the culture in the city of Chicago and the finance law for the toughest in the city's history.
No, there's no suggestion that anything that you're doing along those lines, violates the law. But But is there an expectation? So you're saying
no? So
is there an expectation of access when somebody makes a large contribution?
I'll give you an example. I have received support from business. They're against my increase in the minimum wage. I've actually received support from other businesses. I close loopholes as it relates to buying things outside the city so they can avoid sales taxes. It has no influence. In fact, I've stood up against supporters because when I think they're wrong, like fighting for a stronger minimum wage, I've opposed them directly because I'm clear about what we have to do as a city. But in addition to that, we changed the law before I got here. The city of Chicago, for 40 years, existed with a Shackman oversight for the federal court because our hiring, which is the most corrupt aspect of the city, was influenced by who you knew, not what you knew. Now every part of the city of Chicago does not have federal oversight. We are finally professionalized our hiring, and the federal judge acknowledges a new day in the city of Chicago when it comes to hiring. It's a clear change.
The problem was when he said about Chuy García that taking $1,500 and then voting the next day. The problem is when we look at it, $30 million, and then all these board appointments, and look at those top 103 contractors that received items, 60 of them received some kind of contract, some kind of benefit. If that's not pay to play, I don't know what is. And when we talk about ethics, don't forget the Supreme Court ruled in the one case on all the reforms that the mayor was talking about, including giving subpoena power to the Inspector General, and as now that's still waiting in the Rules and Ethics Committee. We haven't been able to move that out. Well, we need to move those 7 recommendations that we put in out now, and then we're going to start having true reform. There hasn't been. And when we talk about closing the Shackman, let's look at the airport. Let's look at some of these other areas on what's been happening here and whether patronage is still alive or not alive here in this city.
Gentlemen, let's move on to something we call quick hits, and please give me very quick answers, please. Willie Wilson, should anonymous complaints to the Inspector General be allowed? Very quickly, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Mayor?
Yes.
You're in a position to make that happen?
Yeah, we have anonymous, so we have also calls in to make sure on anything as it relates to aldermen, as well as we have the first whistleblower ordinance that ever got passed in the city.
Signed affidavits are required, aren't they?
Not for whistleblowers. We give information on corruption and fraud.
Obama Library on city parkland, yes or no?
No.
Willie Wilson?
I think it deserved to be here, whether it's on city or private. He's the first African-American president in the United States. You do whatever it takes to make it happen.
But on city parkland, would you?
When I get the mayor, I'll put it on city property.
Absolutely. Unequivocal, yes.
All right. Lucas Museum on the lakefront, Willie Wilson.
I think it'll bring in revenue. That's what we need. New job, revenue, help get the budget down, pension. I said bring it here.
Chuy García, Lucas Museum on the lakefront.
No monuments to Darth Vader on our precious lakefront. The citizens ought to have a say-so.
Bob Fioretti.
I think on strong leadership on both of them would have been having the citizens have a voice on it. The Lucas Museum for $1 a year rental for a billionaire is just unacceptable.
Mayor, the initial design of the Lucas Museum really kind of terrified some people. How much change might there be from the initial
Well, that's
design?
what we're going to work through on the process, but I think this brings incredible 2,500 construction jobs, 500 permanent jobs. It brings cultural enrichment. It also helps us fund STEM education for our kids, and I do believe because it will add, rather than a parking lot, 10 acres or about 10 acres of open parkland.
Although that parking lot one day could be parkland.
Yeah, but also with also on the northerly and also on Northerly Island, we're building now 50 acres of open parkland on Northerly Islands rather than an airport.
Okay, let's talk about something else.
So it's not a zero-sum game.
Let's talk about something else that's in the news. Willie Wilson, are you okay with dibs on parking spaces? People putting chairs and such in front of their houses? Yes or no?
Everything ain't yes and no.
Well, give me
Okay?
a quick one or two sentences then.
Well, but put it this way. You have to take and have place to park. Today, the snow. The citizens trying to get out. Truck can't get down the street, but the mayor is still giving people parking tickets.
That's not the question. Is it okay for people to put chairs in front of their houses?
No, I wouldn't.
Bob, you ready?
72 hours, yes.
For 72 hours?
Yeah.
Chuy García?
I don't like it, but it's part of Chicago culture.
So if you were elected mayor, you'd say that's fine?
I try to curtail it. I try to, I'm a neighborhood guy, and we have to call on our neighbors to be commonsensical and considerate of other people. I would call on block clubs to come out and shovel the snow so there are no fighting.
Mayor, okay with dibs on parking spaces?
Yes, I believe in sweat equity. You shovel it, you own it.
For how long?
Just for a period of time till the snow melts in that area.
Okay, question. Willie Wilson, why is Alderman Burke's Dead End Street, do you think, classified as an arterial street for plowing?
I think you got to ask the mayor that. They're buddies. All right?
All right, Mayor, how about it? Why is Alderman Burke's Dead End Street classified as an arterial street for plowing? It was plowed 5 times.
Yeah. Let me say, well, as you know, mine wasn't. The only way you know that information is because 2 years ago I put plowtracker.com so you can follow all the plow tracker and brought transparency to the system so you could actually know what was happening in the city of Chicago, what city workers were doing on city time.
Let's move on. Willie Wilson, in the state today, Governor Rauner said that he wants to lift the cap on the number of charter schools. Should there be a new bumper crop of charter schools?
Let me tell you my situation about charter school. A lot of them is failing from my understanding, okay? I think public school, just as you put emphasis on charter school, you should put emphasis on public school. All citizens should be treated the same with same interests, all right? Because the fact of it is, you come over here, you got to do this. You come over here, you got to do this. Put it on all our schools. Make sure all schools have good computers and things like that. They can learn. Good teacher. Give them the book. Pay the teacher what they need to be paid. All right. So I'm not for so much say charter school, public school. I'm for all schools.
Well, charter schools are public schools. They're just not traditional neighborhood schools.
Yeah.
Bob Fioretti, any circumstances when a charter school is a good idea?
Well, I think at this time we need a moratorium on charter schools. I have a lot of them in the second ward, but I've also seen what happens to our neighborhood schools, and I think we need to focus on financing and making sure that we direct our funds towards neighborhood schools. Until they're strengthened, I don't think we should have any more charter schools.
Mayor, how do charter schools not draw resources from public neighborhood schools?
Well, because here's the thing. to your core question. This is quality. We have to ensure Barbara Bird Bennett, David Vitale, Jesse Ruiz, and the entire board, there's quality throughout the system, whether you go to International Baccalaureate, whether you go to a STEM, a military school, a charter school, another form of a magnet school. And what you have to ensure is there's quality that parents can pick. And these are public schools, as you just noted. And what we have to ensure, and the big challenge as it comes to resources, isn't about charter or IB or STEM. It's the fact is the state is 48th out of 50th in funding education. We're competing against Alabama and Mississippi and Illinois. That's crazy.
Yeah, but
Second,
we
is
have a Democratic governor,
stop.
Senate, and House, and we couldn't get funding.
Right.
We've got to look
That's-
at the bill that's in Springfield right now.
Bob, let me just
that has
finish.
been-
Let me finish the
but
one
you see,
answer. And
you
here,
have,
and
you
here's
are
the-
destroying public schools,
No,
and you have led the effort. And there's only a few of us in the city council that believe that have been standing up on this issue.
Quick response from the mayor, destroying public schools?
When I got here, half our kids had a 2-hour day of kindergarten. And I said that was wrong. I wasn't complicit by being complacent. I stood up and gave every child in the city of Chicago, regardless of background, regardless of where they lived, a full day of kindergarten. I
And
made sure
every
our kids,
teacher in
I made
the city believed
sure
it too.
our children did
And
not
we
have the
all
shortest
wanted
school
that.
day and the shortest school year. We now have a full school day, full school year. And I made sure that our community colleges not only provide a career and a job, but we're going to make
you
sure that if
Chuy
they get
García.
a piece,
Gentlemen,
they
Chuy
do not
García,
get-
go ahead.
they don't go in the poorhouse
There
trying to give
are-
their family
there are
a
some
middle-class
good-
job
there-
and a career.
There are some good charter schools in my district presently. I visit them, I work with them. Some of them are even unionized. So they've respected collective bargaining and they've struck a good balance. There are too many, however, that have been created simply to create more, and those are siphoning education resources from the public neighborhood schools. That's why I support a moratorium. And I voted against the bill that began the charter mania that's occurred in Chicago.
And Phil, one last thing. Oh,
sure.
Go ahead, Willie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know, I appreciate that, Mayor. Let me talk a bit. Right? The public school. I'm kind of like mad with this mayor for closing 50 schools in minority neighborhood. 50 schools, right? When you close 50 schools, 88% of them in African American, 10% of them in Latina, 2% in other, right? That take a void out of those communities. But the other part of it this here as well, you know, you disenfranchise the kids, all right? The school teacher lost their job. The janitor lost their job. Kid got to walk 2 or 3 miles, okay? Those public schools must be open back up, at least half of them, and the rest of them that be closed. You got to put trade in school, so when our kids finish school, they can come out with a job or their businesses.
Mayor,
right?
you've already addressed this numerous times on the campaign trail, but just a quick response to Willie Wilson.
Well, first of all, on the first part, we have actually, the school board and Barbara Bird Bennett have closed 2 charters and actually put 17 on notice that they don't turn around the quality of the education, they're going to be shut. I did not accept the fact that our kids should be continually going to underperforming, under-enrolled schools. We all made a decision, Barbara Bird Bennett and the board, that we could do better for our children in the same vein that we would never accept half our kids getting only 2 hours a day of kindergarten. Never accept our kids having the shortest school day and the shortest school year. Never accept that only there were 4 quality high schools when you can actually reinvigorate our neighborhood high schools with International Baccalaureate and STEM education. And never accept that our community colleges were the equivalent of our 5th and 6th grade of high school rather than preparing our kids for a career and a job. And now we have the Chicago Star Scholarship that if you earn a B average, community college will be free for families so they don't have to go to the poorhouse to give their kids
By the way,
a
if
shot
somebody,
at the
if
American
somebody
dream.
say, is a Chicago resident and he or she goes to a private school outside the city but has a B average, can he or she take advantage of that offer?
No, it's for the kids graduating from Chicago Public Schools.
I see, fine. By the way, are you going to keep Barbara Bird Bennett if you're reelected?
Well, first of all, the voters have to decide that, but as I said in the debate at the Sun-Times, I think she's doing an excellent job because of her leadership as both having the experience of being a teacher, a principal, and an educator at first, and she's done a fabulous job.
How do I respond to her? Just 1 minute.
Okay.
When you talk about education, when you close 50 schools, you focus on strictly education. You got to focus also on crime, okay? I lost a son, 20 years old, to drug, okay? If I send my kid 2 or 3 miles away from school, walking through the gang turk, I'm thinking about more of my kids' safety than education at that point in time, all right? They still got to learn more friends over in those particular areas. what the mayor did on this here, Mr. Mayor, you just can't think of just education. You got to think of when you come in my home, you take my kid out of my home, okay? And now, wait, you take him out of my home, and if I lose my kid, you cannot replace that. That's what I want you to understand, all right? And that's what everybody should understand. When you lose a kid, then you'll think. It ain't about education so much. They ain't walking 2 or 3 miles, okay? All the kids that get killed in Chicago. It's about more than just education, all right? You do not disenfranchise.
Can I address one point of that, if I can? Just real.
How about if we share the time?
You know, let's go ahead. Bob Fioretti, you support an elected school board, yes?
Yes, I do.
In a sense, would an elected school board be as accountable? It seems to me that when there's a group making a decision, accountability is a little dispersed. Why would an elected school board be more accountable than being able to point at one person and saying, you're the one who made that call?
Why do we have a school board? I mean, you just said it. At the same time, nobody had to twist my arm to say I'm for an elected school board. I've been for one since I've come into office since 2007. At the same time, it will reflect the voices that are necessary. Our parents, our teachers, even our students will be heard through an elected school board. At the same time, when we talk
Didn't you once oppose an elected school board?
No.
You never opposed an elected school board?
No.
Okay. Maybe I was confusing you with someone else.
It must have been, because I don't think. And then I think.
Did you oppose an elected school board at one point?
I've never opposed an elected school board. I voted against the bill in 1995 while in the Senate that gave absolute authority to the mayor to appoint the school board, that even removed the city council from approving appointments of Chicago public school appointees. That's my history, but I support an elected school board. We've been doing this now for almost 26 years, and it isn't working. We're the only school district in Illinois that doesn't have an elected school board. Schools are is one of the most important institutions that citizens should have a say-so over. That's why I support it. It ought to be elected. We ought to have accountability. If we had an elected school board, we would not have had the massive school closures that made us a leader in this country.
Mr. Garcia, would you support rewarding good teachers with bonuses or higher pay than other teachers?
I would support funding education equitably in Illinois and in Chicago.
But how about for teachers who one can demonstrate are doing a particularly good job? Are they entitled to higher pay or bonuses?
I think there ought to be incentives for outstanding teachers, but how you arrive at it, show me the formula by which that would happen.
Say you could come up with a good formula.
I would consider it.
By the way, one of the ABC 7 questions leaked that was leaked and that we liked, we're going to actually steal from them. And this is a question for you. If elected...
Is that another problem with plagiarism now?
Well, not if you attribute, Mayor.
Yeah. Well, that would be a footnote.
I'm waiting for the question, Phil.
If elected, how could you represent the interests of taxpayers during contract negotiations for Chicago public school teachers? You've been endorsed by the CTU. Much of your money is coming from the CTU and a National Teachers Union. How could you do it?
Let's be clear that we aren't floating in money. There isn't money to create a gravy train to give to anyone. The bottom line is that we're going to have to sit with the Chicago Teachers Union when I'm elected. We're going to bargain.
How can you be an honest broker with them if they're the ones?
By being transparent.
They recruited
you. By being transparent. They didn't recruit me.
You said Karen Lewis recruited you.
Karen Lewis invited me to consider. She challenged me. Many other people challenged me to do this. I think that my life's work has prepared me for this. But I would do it equitably. I would put all the cards on the table about the state of affairs as it relates to funding of schools in Chicago. There is nothing to be hidden there. There are going to be some really difficult choices to be made, and medicine that probably everyone will not be happy with. That's the reality of the situation.
Mr. Mayor, before the City Club of Chicago this week, Karen Lewis said that it would take more money to retain teachers and avert a strike. What was your reaction to that?
Well, the fact is our teachers are doing a tremendous job. They should take, and I believe they've done a tremendous job in making sure we have a full day of kindergarten for every child. We have a rising graduation rate, the best in the history of the city, best ACT scores ever, best attendance ever, and our kids in elementary levels are finally meeting and exceeding national standards in reading and math. They are doing a great job. What we need to make sure to meet our obligations is that the state no longer be dead last on education funding, and also the taxpayers of the city of Chicago should no longer be asked to pay two teachers' pensions, one for Chicago and one for all the teachers downstate. That inequity has got to come to an end, and it's costing us in this city of Chicago about $500 to $600 million that could go into supporting our schools.
Mayor, that's the big picture, but in terms of the immediate picture, is the city looking at the very real prospect of another teacher strike?
No, I don't believe so. Your first question was about working through issues, and as I showed you, every contract's been worked through without arbitration. We've done it by respecting the people on the party, but making sure it's a win-win situation for the public, as well as for the people that do the hard work representing either police, fire, or teachers.
Now let's segue to another topic, and that's crime. Mr. Garcia, you support 1,000 more police officers, but you have been vague on how to pay for them. How would you pay for them?
First of all, let us recall that we're spending $100 million on overtime presently because the mayor failed to honor his promise 4 years ago to hire 1,000 new cops. I believe that public safety
he'll say that he reassigned.
I believe
so that
public safety is one of the most important functions of government to be able to provide security for its people.
Sure. So how would you pay for it? That $100 million of overtime?
I would use a portion of that because another portion has to be left there in order to accommodate needs as they arise, events, unforeseen circumstances. But my commitment is to make it happen. You know, he argues that we cannot afford 1,000 new cops on our streets. I say we cannot afford 10,000 shootings. We cannot afford 1,800 homicides of people, especially children that have died over the past 4 years under his watch. That's what I say we cannot afford.
Well, quick response, Mayor?
Well, this is, I apologize, Phil, it's a little longer than that, than quick. Because
Mayor.
but this is a very important subject. Too many kids in the city of Chicago have had the familiarity of gunfire, not the familiarity of laughter. We owe them their childhood that's being taken by violence. That's why I said cops cannot be behind desks. They got to be back on the street, and we've moved them there. We've got to stop roving around and put community policing back in our police department. That's why we've dramatically increased our funding for after school and summer jobs, so every child has a safe place, a paycheck, and the values and the sense of responsibility that comes with it. But in addition, we are not going to stop this violence unless we strengthen our gun laws. Chicago now has the toughest ordinance in the country, a municipality for fighting guns. But Springfield actually has to do the hard work of strengthening the gun penalties and the penalties associated with gun crimes, so the flow of guns in the city are not undercutting the hard work of our police department and our community watch groups.
Bob, you're ready. That is a subject I think all...
There are 387 less police officers on the rolls from the time that he took office. 387 less patrolmen and women on the streets of Chicago. How do you explain that? You know, there was a 40% increase in homicides
real quick, is that an accurate
in January as compared to a year ago.
The Police Department is at full strength.
All right, Bob Fioretti. Bob Fioretti. You know, there is agreement that more needs to be done on guns. Give me one idea, new idea, to change that, to address the proliferation of guns.
Well, I think one of the things, especially what we see in the bill that was introduced in Springfield 2, that enhances penalties and at the same time keeps judicial discretion there. I think we need to be looking overall in background checks and who has them, especially some of these flow of guns from Indiana, what we need to do. When the mayor talks about easing crime, we know we have $100 million, $117 million in overtime. We know we have a underworked, understaffed, overworked police department that needs help. We can cut some of this overtime, hire new people, but at the same time, we found that in the budget 2 years ago to hire 500 more police officers. We presented that amendment to the budget, and it got shot down in 5 minutes. At the same time, the administration talks about all kinds of things that they've done. They need to give the resources to the men and women on the street, help them fight crime, instead of worrying about press conferences that exaggerate what they're doing and fudging the police statistics here.
Let's have another round of quick hits for all the candidates real quickly. Chuy, Garcia, when was the last time you used the CTA?
2 weeks ago.
Did the Venture card work?
Yes.
All right.
About 2 months ago, and yes, it did, even though on other occasions I've had it that it doesn't work.
When was the last time you used the CTA and did the Venture card work?
10 years.
10 years? Mayor, when was the last time you used the CTA?
Tuesday and Monday. I take it twice a week to work.
And did the Venture card work?
Always does.
All right. Do you give any money to panhandlers?
Yes.
Do you?
No.
No?
No.
Yes.
Name a book or movie or a piece of art that moves you.
Streetwise, though.
Streetwise?
I do buy streetwise.
They're not panhandlers. They're,
so as
they're
long as we
entrepreneurs.
understand. Okay.
All right, fine.
Good.
Name a book,
I know
movie,
that.
or a piece of art that moves you. Chuy, Garcia.
The Picasso,
Which one?
the one at the Daily Center.
Oh, that one.
Yes,
All right.
the big one.
Okay, good. Hard to miss. Bob, you ready? Book, movie, or piece of art that moves you?
Well, I've been reading the speeches of Martin Luther King. Last night I read the one that he gave at the end of Selma. I haven't seen the movie, but it had a profound effect, and I'm going through again his work.
Willie Wilson?
The Bible.
The Bible? Mayor?
The 6 of 6 million is a story of the Holocaust and the family's elimination.
Should there be dogs in Maggie Daly Park? Willie Wilson.
Dog went loud in my house when I was down south.
I take that as a no. Bob, if you're ready, dogs in Maggie Daly Park?
I think we just leave it there, man.
Okay, good enough.
Not much more.
Let's move on.
Phil, I think what would I tell my dog Mia when I get home? No?
The answer is yes.
That's between you and your dog.
The answer is yes. There should have been a segment set up for a dog-friendly area there.
All right, next one. Chicago Casino, yes or no?
No.
Yes.
Definitely.
Only under the right conditions.
Mayor, I had heard that you were having second thoughts because at one time, weren't you pushing for Chicago Casino?
Here's the thing. We've brought our convention business back to we're now #1 in creating 10,000 jobs in the hospitality. Originally, people thought you only needed a casino to revitalize our tourism. We've done the hard work to actually grow our tourism industry, grow our convention business. When Chicago's setting
But it
new
hasn't
records.
really grown that much.
So you're saying you don't need it? You don't need it like you thought you did?
From
only under the right
pre-recession levels,
conditions and
it
only
hasn't
if the
grown that
revenue
much.
goes to building new schools.
Let's go to another topic. Bob Fioretti, why is Chicago still so segregated?
I think economic issues, schools, especially when you close 50 schools in this city, you're turning your backs on those communities. And now, who's going to suffer? The small businesses that were selling around those schools. It's a continuing ripple effect on all those 50 schools. And they're black and they're brown communities. We haven't dedicated the resources for them. We need to find ways to bring jobs into those communities, have incubators for them, tax-free zones to allow good businesses.
Okay, those are solutions, but you've given me an answer. Why do you think Chicago is still so segregated?
Part of it is just the history and the segregated patterns of housing, but that is changing very gradually. There is some diversification occurring. What I think would be the solution would be raising the minimum wage, engaging in more economic development stimulus in the neighborhoods that have been left behind, and I think those would get us on the way to a diversification. And of course, also engaging in pioneering with mixed development communities in Chicago, communities that are economically as well as ethnically diverse throughout the city.
All right, Willie Wilson, why do you think Chicago is still so segregated?
Well, the reason why economic empowerment, economic development, the jobs that goes to minority is not done the right way. When you talk minority, you reach a number. You're talking about the white male and you're talking about the white female numbers. It's in those versus African American, Hispanic, and so those dollars is going in the wrong direction. It had to reflect equally proportionate to Chicagoland area. And when you take economic out of the neighborhood, it creates segregation. I don't think that I'll be honest with you. I have a lot of white friends, a lot of African American friends, Hispanic friends. I see it as economic. If you treat us right, everybody get along.
Mayor, why is there still so much segregation in Chicago?
As been pointed out, first of all, there's a history. It has to do with housing and other policies that were here in the city of Chicago. Economic disparity is the big challenge, which is why I fought so hard to raise the minimum wage. But I will also say if I point to a positive, the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago has elected more African Americans to the United States Senate and statewide and to Congress than any other state. So while we have a bad past that we have to confront and be upfront about, we also have something to point to that's the direction of how to actually resolve this problem.
We're almost out of time. Bob, you're ready. Tell me one thing you admire about another candidate at this table, real quickly.
I think on all of them, they all have traits, but I think the two alongside of me want to listen to people, and they believe in listening.
Chuy García, say one good thing about another candidate at the table.
Willie Wilson reminds me of my folksy roots in rural Mexico. He's from a rural part in the U.S. I like him.
Mayor, something you admire about another candidate?
Every one of them have something they have to contribute that's been part of their experience that develops their character. Chuy's part of an immigrant family, shows the promise of America. Bob overcoming cancer and being able to continue to serve. And Willie acknowledging the fact that just earlier that he came from a broken family, yet he is a very successful businessman.
We're almost out of time. Willie Wilson, real quickly, something you admire about another candidate?
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and we shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
That's where we'll have to leave it.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
We appreciate it, gentlemen. Our thanks to Rahm Emanuel, Willie Wilson, Bob Fioretti, and Jesús Garcia. Thanks also to the City Club of Chicago for its generous support of this program. And a special thanks to the City Club members and guests who joined us in our studio audience this evening. You can visit our website to see behind-the-scenes photos and watch videos of the post-forum news conference later tonight. There you can also find much more information about the candidates, including career timelines, their views on key issues, and much more. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Phil Ponce, and I thank you for watching. Good night.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the City Club of Chicago.
Smart people may disagree about what makes it, but part of what makes Chicago great is that we don't have to agree. To run a city like ours, a lot of issues come up. The City Club of Chicago is a place to debate those issues and hear from the men and women who shape the policies, lead the industries, and tell the stories that define our city. For the free and open exchange of ideas, the City Club of Chicago.
Closed captioning on WTTW is made possible in part by Clifford Law Offices and Robert A. Clifford, recipient of the 2014 Professionalism Award from the American Inns of Court Foundation.